Meru is located 200 kilometers to the north of Nairobi in the lee of Mount Kenya, and it was here that the fifth round of the 2009 KCB Kenya National Rally Championship would start. In the 70s and 80s, the town had been a regular stop on the Safari Rally when the event circumnavigated Mount Kenya on the northern leg of what was then a 5,000-kilometer marathon. But the last time Meru had been visited was back in 1986. No wonder there was much to celebrate, and the whole town came to a standstill as the residents jostled for the best view. It was the KCB Asset Finance Rally. There was much to see with both the pre-event check of the cars and the ceremonial start taking place in the town centre. It was a two-day event with the longer rally stages located on the other side of Mount Kenya in the Loldaiga Hills.
This year Loldaiga might be a sting in the tail of sorts because it is A, very fast, and B, due to the drought, they've had a large influx of elephants and buffaloes onto the ranch. So yeah, it's going to be surprises galore.
The competition would be fierce with the entry list comprising the full house of Kenya's finest, including the current championship leader Carl Tundo.
We saw lots of game today. Game, elephants, giraffe. It was nice.
It's going to be an interesting route then.
Yeah, it will be. It's absolutely stunning. I'm hoping on the Lolomaric stages and maybe a couple of the farm stages that I might have an advantage. We'll see.
Baldev Chaga was the defending winner of the event, but having done the recce, was unsure of his chances this year.
I think it's a bit more technical. There's not too many cuts you can do. There's not. You got to be careful. You got to keep it in the center in many places. You get it off, and you could get it terribly wrong. I mean, you could remember what happened to Alistair a couple of years ago in the Mitsubishi. So you got to be careful with that.
Lee Rose was making another return alongside Alistair Kavanagh, Azar Anwar, and Ian Duncan, who were all strong contenders for victory. Azar Anwar with Julius Gige had been drawn first, lining up for the start outside the Meru KCB branch, where the guest of honor was the Member of Parliament for the local Imenti area. After buckling up, Azar made an impressive start, giving the residents exactly what they wanted to see. The residents had even more in store, as the first section of the rally was a spectator stage in the arena of the local agricultural showground. The crews had not been permitted to wreck at the stage, but several hitched a ride with the route opener to see what they were in for. Thousands turned out to watch, spread around the stadium-style venue. There was little to be gained or lost on the 2-kilometer circuit, but the kudos of winning the stage was shared between Carl Tundo and Alistair Kavanagh, who equaled with the fastest time. Only seconds eventually separated the field of 38 cars, with Stefano Rocca the quickest of the classics. Amongst the two-wheel drives, Charles Hinga was the most flamboyant, but it was Jasmine Chana in the front-wheel drive Golf who took the honors. One thing for certain is that the stage will go down as one of the highlights in the Meru record books.
We approximated spectators to have been in excess of 50,000, going close to 100,000. We've not seen anything like that anywhere in Kenya. I think I've only seen...
The cars were parked overnight under the protection of the municipal council, leaving the crews to enjoy the memorable hospitality of Meru. It was against the stunning backdrop of Mount Kenya that early the following morning, the rally restarted, commencing with two stages amidst the wheat fields on the privately owned Kisima farm. There were 10 stages to be tackled, amounting to 160 kilometers of competitive motoring. Stages 2 and 3 were on the wheat farm, with the remainder on the Lolomarik Plains and the Loldaiga Hills. Stages 5 and 6 would be repeated twice, and Stage 4 3 times, with the longest stage being 27 kilometers. Azhar Anwar and Julius Gige were the first to face the stages. They had come prepared to give the others a fight on this rally and hoped that being first on the road would be an advantage before the tracks got churned up. But instead of gaining, they lost over 3 minutes and were down in third.
You know, the last 2 rallies, I've been fastest on the last stage. Only. So, one of these days I want to start being fastest from the first stage onwards.
Taking up the early lead were Alistair Cavan and Salim Haji. They were quickest over stage 2 and were settling into a pace to consolidate the lead when the rear suspension collapsed, forcing them into an early retirement.
Taking the suspension clean off? Yeah. Okay.
Bolt basically came out of the bottom of the shock. So we didn't hit anything. It was just the shock absorber came to bits. The rear strut.
Despite slowing down to give way to local wildlife, the lead was immediately picked up by Carl Tundu and Tim Jessup. They were quickest over 3 of the opening 5 stages, opening up a massive 3-minute advantage. Even this early on, it was a foregone conclusion that they would win.
At the moment it's going well, and it's an awesome route actually. It's very technical and hair-raising. It's good fun. Yeah, we will now back off. Famous last words.
Lee Rose and Chris Dakin had been matching Tundu's times, but were sidelined from the front-end race when they punctured twice.
And double caution late, slow left. It's a double medium.
They were relegated to 5th, over 5 minutes behind, but were unconcerned, planning just to recover what they could.
I just want to get to the end and enjoy myself now. We'll see, we'll try and do a few quick ones, but you know, it's very tricky out there, very, very tricky. You know, it's 100% concentration or the stage will bite.
After stage 3, Baldev Chaga and Raju Semi were lying third, but in the car they had not settled in. They set their sights on catching the 2 ahead, but it was not to be when the car got caught in ruts and they rolled. The damage was superficial, but the radiator had blown and they were unable to continue.
They set up the car nicely, and I think it just got out to the rear wheel, the rut, and just toppled it over. They tried to correct it and everything, but no, it just wasn't our day. What more can I say?
With Rose dropping back and Chaga out, Peter Horsey and Moses Matovu found themselves in second. They had been granted a wildcard entry to the Pirelli Challenge, and this would be their last event before taking on the other finalists in Rwanda. Being second was a bonus, but not as important as making sure the car was 100% fit. Ian Duncan was with Gavin Lawrence on this event. They had lost nearly 3 minutes on the awkward early stages and were now pushing the National Oil pickup as hard as it would go. They had to drive hard to be competitive, being subjected to a 2% penalty for driving a special.
We have to make it go a bit quicker, or just buy one of these boring Group N cars like everyone else.
Would you ever go back to a Group N?
Well, if we can't make it go a bit quicker, then we might as well, because it's a bit depressing coming 5th, 6th, 7th in a section, then they give you a penalty as well. So, yeah.
The event was very much a navigator's nightmare. Just listen to the barrage of instruction the driver had to absorb.
Caution fast right, tightens over small brow to double caution fast right, tightens over small brow. 100. Caution easy right over small brow, tightens little. 50 max left. 50, double caution fast right, tightens. This one, 50, double caution slow left, tightens. It's turned slow left. This one.
The navigators had to be on the ball, but suffering most from wrong slots were Asad Khan and Charles Kibue. They had yet to get through a section clean. For example, they are seen here taking the wrong fork after the gate. This lost them nearly 2 minutes. Assad was understandably frustrated, and being 10th was very much a bonus.
We went up the hills there until we found some spectators and they're asking me, where are you going? Then we turned around and we came back to the main point, the main place where we got lost. I'm just like, a cowboy. I just come to enjoy it. It's a nice place, a nice view around and all.
After stage 6 and 60 kilometers of competitive motoring, Carl Tundo's lead of 3 minutes was potentially unassailable. But on such an unpredictable rally, the leaderboard positions were precarious. The event was taking place on the edge of the scenic Loldaiga Hills, an area of Kenya where wildlife still roams free. The wildlife had right of way, and whilst drivers often had to take avoiding action, the privilege of rallying in such a beautiful part of the country more than compensated for any time lost. And always on the horizon was the majestic Mount Kenya. The cars had been refreshed in service, and following a 60-minute break giving the back markers time to clear the sections, the leaders set off to tackle the next loop of 3 stages. Carl Tundo and Tim Jessup were still the pace setters, and with such a huge lead, they were no longer taking any risks. All they had to do was to get through the stages clean, but they were to be dealt a cruel hand, forced out when the differential literally blew. Listen for the bang. The lead was then inherited by Peter Horsey and Moses Matovu, and with Azar Anwar only 30 seconds behind, they were driving to increase the gap. In the rush, they hit a rock pushing a rear strut through the bodywork, and they were also out.
We knew we were going to have to, put new components. A lot of running gear was going to have to be new before the start of Rwanda. But yeah, it's a shame we didn't get to have as much driving time as we would have liked this weekend.
Azar Anwar and Julius Gige's strategy of playing a waiting game paid off, and they were now in the lead. But with Rose breathing down hard behind them, it would now be a case of whether the Evo 8 had the legs to stay ahead. Lee Rose and Piers Dakin were quickest through each of the 3 stages on the loop, and apart from inheriting second place, were closing in fast on Anwar. With only 1 stage remaining, the two were separated by only 18 seconds. Ian Duncan and Gavin Lawrence were also on a mission. With all the dropouts, they were now in 3rd, well placed should either of the two ahead falter. Quinton Mitchell and Tim Challen were continuing to claim times amongst the top 5 on each stage, and well-deserved 4th place. Their new grading system of the corners was paying off.
And right 6 over crest, 50. Left 4.
I think definitely we're on a faster charge than we were last season and earlier this season on the normal notes. Because at least now we know exactly what the angle of the corner is. I think the problem now comes to maybe on recce I'm maybe grading a few of the corners wrong.
100 turn.
With only 1 stage remaining, it was all change on the leaderboard. Azar Anwar was in the lead, and it was now a case of whether he could hold it to the end. Only 2 cars had entered the Classic Car Cup category, and both were Datsun 240Zs. Stefano Rocca and Franco Donadel were the favourites to win, and by the end of stage 4 had pulled out a 32-second lead. Andrew Siddle from England in the other 240Z was getting in some practice ahead of the East African Safari Classic. With local Mike Borissow in the navigator's seat, they were returning impressive times, but then they hit a rock, leaving them with no steering. With Siddle out, Stefano Rocca was now challenging for a position on the leaderboard, and over the next 6 stages climbed through the ranks on each stage. With such a long bonnet, it was easy to guide the car through the many gates, except for this one. At the end, they had clawed their way from 15th to finish 7th overall.
I was not very happy until the last couple of sections because I was sleeping. This morning I was sleeping. Then I recoup. Then the last 2 or 3 sections I was upset with myself and we made it.
In the Classic Car Cup table, Stefano was the only one to score points, moving him from 3rd to 2nd on the board. In the two-wheel drive championship, 7 cars had entered, led away from the start by James Karemi and Kimeli Korir. Up until the last event, Charles Hinga and Evans Wonder had been leading the championship and were determined to regain the honours. They had been going through a run of bad luck, and it would continue on this rally when they were forced out with a blown engine on stage 4. The defending event winners were Leonardo Varesi and Kigondo Karevi in their VW Golf GTI. They were anxious to win again and took the early lead, but then made mistakes, which with every second counting, they could ill afford. At the end, they lost the race and finished 2nd. The two-wheel drives only had 60 kilometers of competitive motoring to sort out their differences, and Jasmeet Chana with Sudhir Tati took advantage to pace their event. They were quickest through 5 of the 6 stages the two-wheel drives covered, but it had been close, and it was only on the last 2 stages they grasped what was eventually a marginal win. This was Jasmeet Chana and Sudhir Tati's 3rd win of the season, but it was the closest, having only won by 21 seconds.
Climbing up the Londega hills, we were a bit careful on the rocks. Besides that, we never had a problem. We've been driving around 80% this time. Still had some in store, but we were quite comfortable where we were driving.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jasmeet Chana and Sudhir Tati.
6 of the 7 starters finished, with the top 5 separated by just under 6 minutes on what had been a difficult rally. This reflected in the time differences. In the championship, Jasmeet Chana has extended his lead to 18 points ahead of Leonardo Varesi, who has moved from 4th to 2nd. Charles Hinga drops from 2nd to 4th and will be reflecting on his chances. All the drivers were not only challenging for leaderboard positions, but also for a place in their respective divisions. And with the season at the halfway point, this was becoming important. In Division 3, Alex Horsey and Orson Taylor had been the clear early leaders, but then they punctured, and following an awkward change, were relegated to the back of the field. Syed Hamad and Victor Okundi would take 2nd in the division. They are becoming more and more experienced with each passing rally, and what they lose out on in the performance of the car is more than made up for by their enthusiasm. They went on to finish 9th overall and 2nd in the division. Kirit Rajput and Ravi Soni had replaced the bent steering arm, and their times immediately improved, more often than not in the top 10, which for a Division 3 driver was unusual. The leading 3 drivers in the division all finished within 60 seconds, with Kirit and Ravi leading the group, and they came 8th overall.
I know we've got the potential, and we just put it to the road and see if we can achieve something.
What's your goal then?
Well, ultimately, to win the Division 3.
In the Division 3 table, Alex Horsey's lead has been eroded, with any of the top 6 now all in with a chance. Syed Hamad moves from 4th to 2nd, and Kirit Rajput moves up 2 places to 4th. Quinton Mitchell and Tim Challen were the clear leaders in Division 2. They were so far ahead of their closest rivals that for them, the competition was more about how many Division 1 drivers they could beat. Apart from winning the division, they came an impressive 4th overall. Quinton was also the KCB Young Star of the event. Behind them came Asad Khan and Charles Kibue. They had overcome the navigational problems, and they would not only come second in the division, but were also the highest placed Subaru in the event, finishing 6th overall. Dinesh Sachania and Kiran Patel were once again proving that consistency is the key to success. They had a clean, good run to finish 11th overall and 3rd in the division, despite an argument with the gate on the last stage. Although Anwar Pandya and George Mwangi did not gain points in Kenya because Anwar rallies on a Tanzanian permit, they were classified in Division 2. Having not finished in recent rallies, their only goal on this one was to reach the end.
Since the commence of the year, I haven't finished the rally, so I'm hoping to finish this one. I'm trying to be cautious and fast, rather than fast and break my car. That always happens to me. So
it was with much celebration that they reached the finish, and they didn't consider 13th to be unlucky. Dinesh Sachania moves back into first place at the head of the table, alongside Asad Khan, with Quinton Mitchell and Izar Mirza sharing 3rd. Overall honours still had to be settled between Azhar Anwar and Lee Rose, who were only separated by 18 seconds. They were both fired up to take up the challenge, but the flame was snuffed out when Azhar Anwar punctured, and they lost 4 minutes changing it. Lee Rose was behind Azhar on the road and was unaware they had punctured, and it was only at the last control that they were given the news that they had won. Azhar Anwar's puncture had taken so long to change that Ian Duncan, who had been lying 3rd, was sufficiently quick through the stage that they not only closed the gap but overtook Anwar for 2nd.
Okay, this rally had a lot more people dropping out with problems, so that's the only thing, is we're not really here because of our brilliance, rather than just consistent and steady going and not having any problems. So
Azhar Anwar and Julius Gige knew they'd had the lead snatched away from them, but still drove hard to the end, but eventually had to accept 3rd.
Yeah, it's always disappointing not to win, especially when we were leading just with 23 kilometers to go. So that puncher it lost us a lot of time.
Having had 2 punctures earlier in the day, Lee Rose and Piers Dakin never imagined a win was on the cards. But whilst it benefited from the misfortune of others, the determination to recover the time lost had paid dividends.
Small brow is fast right. It's a long fast left.
This was Lee Rose and Piers Dakin's 2nd consecutive win. And all of a sudden, they now stand a chance at the championship title.
This is a fantastic win because, you know, all morning, you spoke to me this morning, I just thought, well, let's see what happens. I might be able to get a 5th or something. We'll have a go and see how far we can get up there. And we went from 7th to get the win.
Yes, he's the fastest driver in the KCB, Kenya National Rally Championship Series.
Lee Rose had won by just under 2 minutes, but without a penalty of 2%, Ian Duncan would have been the winner. Azhar Anwar eventually lost by the time it took to change the puncture. 18 of the 29 starters finished, with Subarus no longer the dominant mark, filling up most of the latter positions. The championship has suddenly become wide open. Carl Tundo hangs on to the slender lead of 45 points, whilst everyone behind changed places. Baldev Chaga was the worst hit, dropping from 3rd to 6th. Lee Rose moves from 4th to 2nd. In the KCB Young Star Challenge, Quinton Mitchell was the only youngster under the age of 27 to finish, and the points gained moves him from 4th to 2nd, but it's all very close.